Welcome to part 2 of this series of tutorials on using AI tools. And in this part, what we'll do is look at the all-important topic of prompt engineering, which is basically asking the right question in the right way to get good results. So here's what you'll learn during this tutorial. We'll begin by looking at what AI tools are good at, and then we'll look at some of the things they're less good at, as a warning. We'll then go on to look at the COARSE acronym, what it stands for and how you can use it to remind yourself to cover all the bases when writing prompts. And then I want to look at a couple of examples. One is on getting good book recommendations, and the other is on setting some discussion prompts on challenges facing the world. So a nice cheerful topic to end with. But I think that's enough of looking at me. I'm going to vanish now, and let's get started. So let's look at an example of what I think would be a good prompt from the point of view of an AI tool. This is the sort of thing it would like to be asked. So what I'm saying is create a summary of the plot of the film Titanic. Create a 2-column table. The first column should be headed character and give the character's name, and the second column should be headed actor or actress and give the name of the person who played the character. And then I've said under separate heading give the plot synopsis using simple English and in no more than 100 words. And finally, include your opinion of the film. Assume you're an experienced film reviewer, but you could be a bit cynical and a bit sarcastic. So let's see how well that performs. Firstly, notice how incredibly quick it is. There was no special effects there. That's how long it took. So I've got my list of the cast list for Titanic. I've got the plot synopsis, and I've got the opinion. It's visually stunning, well acted, and shamelessly manipulative. The romance is touching if you like your love stories painted in billboard-sized strokes. The disaster scenes are spectacular, though the scripts sometimes feel like it's been dipped in syrup. A fine film, but you may roll your eyes as much as you shed tears. So when is AI likely to get things right? Why was that Titanic prompt so successful? There's 4 criteria which tend to make for a good result when using an AI tool. One is when you're asking about something that humanity as a whole knows about, especially if it knew about it a year or two ago when the large language model underlying the AI tool was last created. So in this case, Titanic has been around for a long time. There's a lot of things published about it. Humanity has a deep reservoir of knowledge about it, so we got good results. AI is also very good at summarizing information, which is what we asked it to do there, and very good at interpreting it too, probably better than humans, I would say. And finally, AI is very good at playing roles, and also, and this was what really surprised me when I started learning how to use AI tools in earnest, it can be very funny. So we're really playing to the strengths of ChatGPT there. So we've looked at what AI is good at. When is it less good? One common example is when an AI tool doesn't know about the answer to something, and so it just makes it up, hallucinates. Or when you ask it to do something without having a chain of thought, it can come up with the wrong answer. It's not very good at certain creative tasks, such as creating cryptic crossword clues, for example. And it can have real problems creating complicated images or changing existing pictures. So what I'll do is give you an example of each of those, because I want to make sure before we go on that you don't think AI tools are perfect, because they're not. They're just very, very, very good. So let's take an example to begin with of when our AI might hallucinate. So I'm going to say, please think of a 6-letter word which means the same as exact. And it will give me the answer, precise in this occasion. The problem with that is precise has got 7 letters. So what I'm going to do is challenge it and say, are you sure? It's great fun doing this because you normally get an apology. Yes, I'm sure. And then it says, no, that was my mistake. Let me correct it. So you can see with certain things, it will struggle and hallucinate. But I think I have to say at this point, I'm cheating. I'm using 4.0. If I'd used GPT-5, it's actually virtually impossible to get AI to hallucinate. I've just been trying. I think hallucination is a problem which is largely being solved by the latest AI tools. So a problem that AI tools used to have a lot is not doing chain of thought reasoning. So here I've got Gemini to say, take the number of lives that a cat has, that's 9. Multiply this by the number of wonders in the ancient world, that's 7, so that gives me 63. And subtract from this the answer to life, the universe and everything, which is 42. And give me a single sentence saying the answer to your questions is, so I should get 21. And as you can see, it's given me 41. But again, I'm cheating. I'm using an old version of Gemini. or an old query I ran, if I ask exactly the same question today, I'm almost certain it's still giving me the wrong answer. But if I were to do it in a number of other tools, I've just been playing about with this, it's actually quite hard again getting AI tools to get their chain of thought reasoning wrong like this. If you wanted to solve this particular problem, you could say, show me your reasoning or show me your chain of thought. And what it would do then is apologize and give you the correct answer. And it says, I apologize for the previous incorrect response. So what I'm going to do now is press Shift Control O to create a new chat. And I'm going to try something else which AI tools are particularly bad at, which is a cryptic crossword clue, in this case for the phrase wise owl. So if I try running that, let's see what it comes up with. It's quite difficult because I don't know what it's going to come up with. And it says, sage bird returns seeing wolf's heart. So the definition of the clue is sage. Well, that's fair enough. And the wordplay is you take the word owl and reverse it. I don't think any of this makes sense. What's noticeable about this is an AI tool will almost never tell you it doesn't know the answer. It's up to you to know what it's good at and what it's bad at. So one more quick example, this one to do with images. When our children were young, we used to play travel bingo with them. So I produced a set of cards. This one's going to have 3 columns and 4 rows, so that's 12 pictures. And there'll be a description underneath each of what the picture represents. And the idea is you have to spot them on your journey. So let's see how ChatGPT gets on. And here's the answer after a gap of about a minute, 2 minutes. It's all looking quite good until I look towards the bottom. You can see down here I've got 2 signposts. One is a signpost, the other definitely isn't one. I've also got the opportunity to see a CAP to its left. So in fact, it's a bit nonsensical. My traffic lights also seem to have a plane driving into them. Now, it's easy to make fun of AI tools like this, but I've cheated at least twice over. One by using an older version of ChatGPT, and the other is by running this twice. I just didn't show you the first result, which was pretty much perfect. What's astonishing is how much better this example is than it used to be 12, 18 months ago when it used to give me complete rubbish. So AI tools have come in a lot, and it's extremely hard getting them to go wrong these days. So what I want to do now is introduce an acronym which you may find useful or may not. It's COARSE. Life can be coarse, and the C stands for context. So when you're asking a prompt, the context is what it's about. The O is for what the output should be. Do you want a table of data? Do you want a PDF file? Do you want a limerick? Your choice. The A is for who the AI tool is writing for. Is it for a group of school children? Is it for a group of marketing professionals? Again, your choice. The R is for the role you want the AI tool to play. Do you want it to be an expert in its field? Do you want it to be a relative newcomer? Again, it's up to you to say. The S is for the style you want the answer written in. Do you want it written in tech speak, gangster rap, Queen's English? And the E is for some examples you may give it to guide it along its way. So what I'm going to do next is to give a couple of examples in separate sections showing how you can use the various parts of this acronym to help you to construct the perfect prompt. So for my first example, what we're going to do is get some book recommendations, admittedly just for me, because after all, this is my tutorial, but you can adapt it to your own needs. So I'm going to start with the context. I would like to get some recommendations of what books I can read, please. And you have to be careful in ChatGPT to press Shift and Enter to make sure that you don't automatically submit the query. So that's my context. The next thing I want to do is say what my output should be like. So the output should be a table with 3 columns, giving the name of the book, the author, and a brief summary, no more than 50 words. And the summary should include some notes on why I might like the book. So I've stated quite clearly what the output should look like. The next thing is the audience, and the audience is me. I'm a slightly nerdy male, I think that's a fair statement, who lives in England, and I like well-written and interesting books. The 4th letter in the COARSE acronym is the role. And the role of ChatGPT in this case is you're someone who's able to find reviews on the internet from people similar to myself and work out from these what I would be likely to enjoy. I think probably ChatGPT ChatGPT on this occasion could have deduced that for itself. The fifth part of the acronym is the style. Please write in plain, concise English with no filler text and no additional questions. It's probably worth mentioning at this point, the things like the style, I would actually put in the settings for my AI tool so I don't have to keep repeating it. Finally, I need some examples. This is probably the thing I would be least likely always to include, but it does help. So I've included a couple of examples. Here's two examples to guide you. Please don't include either book, as I've read and enjoyed them both. And that's important because the moment you start giving examples to ChatGPT or any other AI tool, it does have a habit of repeating them back to you. So I've given the examples of Pride and Prejudice with some words on why I think that's a good book, and 1984 by George Orwell. Now, I haven't tried this out, so you're going to see this at the same time as I do. If we now run that query, let's see what it recommends. So I have to say, as so often, I'm impressed with the results. The main reason is I've read those first two books and enjoyed them hugely, both of them. I haven't read any of the others, and perhaps I should. So you might like to try this out for yourself and see what ChatGPT thinks you should be reading this summer or winter, whenever you're watching this video. So what I now want to do is to generate some discussion topics for a group of 12-year-old children. So the first thing I'm going to do is to put the context in. I want to generate some discussion topics about some of the biggest problems facing the world today. The next thing I need is to say what my output would be. So I want to create a bulleted list of 3 topics, and beneath each topic include a short summary of the main issues involved. So I'm always quite precise with what I want my output to be. The next thing we want is the audience. So you're writing this for a group of school children in their first year secondary school. I think that's 7th grade in the US. I hope I'm right about that. The fourth thing is the role you want it to play. So you want AI to be a concerned citizen of planet Earth, but I put with a slightly optimistic slant on life. I don't want to be too depressing about this. The fifth thing is the style. So please use simple English, which would be readily understandable by the average 12-year-old in England. And I put feel free to use 12-year-old slang if appropriate. Now, what I haven't done is included any examples with this. I frequently don't, in particular because I don't speak 12-year-old slang. So let's see what it gives us if I run that now. I haven't seen this before, so you're seeing this for the first time. So here's your list. Keeping it real. How cool is that? Like a friendly neighbour who cares about the planet and knows we can fix stuff if we work together. I think that was my optimism gave me that. And you can see it's come up with 3 issues: climate change, plastic pollution and poverty. So that's the second example of how, by following the COARSE acronym to remind yourself on the sort of things you can include in a prompt, you can improve the results you get. There's so much more on our website at wiseowl.co.uk, including blogs, shorter tips, tutorials on SQL and VBA, hundreds of exercises in all sorts of different software applications, and a chance to test your skills in a few selected software applications. In addition to all of that, you can watch our video tutorials like this one in all these different subjects. Or you could consider booking one of our training courses, whether it be classroom, on-site, or online, or even as one-to-one consultancy. Thank you for watching.